What's up, my brothers? Did you know that men are 8 times more likely during the divorce process to self-delete? In this video, I want to address that and offer some reasonable solutions to that problem that men struggle with going through the divorce machine. This is actually the second part to a 2-part video. The first part, I'll put a card up on the top right, is relevant to this because it's kind of the origin of it. There's a story in Mississippi a few weeks ago where a woman was praising her husband during the divorce process when it turned out it simply wasn't the case, and he ended up self-deleting him and her. You can check out that video because that's kind of a different sort of story, but definitely relevant. In this one, I want to get into what the problem is and how to get some sort of a remedy to this, because it's very, very difficult for guys. All right, let's hit the road and we'll dive down the rabbit hole. The first thing that you guys need to understand, if you're a man that's going to go through the divorce process, currently in it or even contemplating it, is that it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. It's one of the hardest things you're ever going to do as a man. It's certainly very, very difficult, and most men, myself included, when I went through my own divorce, severely underestimated what was going to happen. My understanding was, you know, men and women are equal, and you know, that's just the way that it is today. It's modern, progressive world. Well, my first call with my divorce lawyer revealed to me how simple and easy the process would be. He basically ended it saying something along the lines of, if you have the penis, you're going to lose in a divorce if you go to court. So there's a whole strategy that needs to be played out and some thought put into it. But I think the first thing that you need to understand as a guy is that divorce is going to be hard. Don't expect it to be a simple or easy process. It will be difficult. And for the vast majority of men, it's quite a bit more difficult than what you anticipate or plan for. So understand that from the get-go. All right, the second thing that you got to understand, guys, is that she will go for custody, will likely alienate you from your kids, and will try to extract as much in the way of financial resources from you through family law. Family law is hostile in the West towards fathers and men. You may be a father going through the divorce process. You may not be a father going through the divorce process. But what you need to understand is everything that's written within family law is not designed to split things down the middle, make it fair and equal. You take what you had, she takes what she has, and you just sort of return to your own lives. It doesn't work that way. That's the furthest thing from the truth, in fact. The way that it typically works in most Western countries, states, and provinces is that the mom ends up getting custody, and they do this because they know that the vast majority of financial resources will flow to them. So it's advantageous. It's actually quite clever, and most women plan well into advance. Most guys don't do much in the way of any kind of planning when it comes to divorce or untying the knot. They're just like, go with the flow. She says, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I'm going to take the kids and go to my parents' house this weekend. And you're just like, okay, I guess I have the place to myself. And you kind of figure it out from there. But, you know, the status quo is something that you got to contemplate, and women will take the children. There's a strong advantage, not just to her as a mother and wanting to protect them or look after them, any of those things. That's really a very small part of it, although it does play a part in it. The biggest part of it is that her having custody of the kids means she can make pretty much all the decisions. She can get as much money as she possibly can from you. Like, the maximum amount of wealth transfer occurs when she has custody of the kids. There's also maintenance or alimony depending on where you live. She may have been a stay-at-home mom. She may have chosen to work a part-time job. You may have told her, don't worry about it, just, you know, work a part-time job a few hours a week, I'll take care of things. Any number of variations happen, but generally speaking, what usually happens for the vast majority of marriages is women tend to marry up. They have the adorer and the adored sort of sequence figured out, where she looks up at the guy. She sees him as a more successful, more wealthy, more competent than herself, and in divorce, it takes care of her. That's just the way that it is. So just understand, doesn't matter what she says, guys. You know, if she says, oh, you know, we'll work this out, it'll be fair and amicable. When you watch that video that I talked about at the opening of this one, you'll see how I broke it down and how women's words and actions are often quite different. And you have to understand this, and you have to plan for it. So please, please, please pay attention to this point. The third thing, and I alluded to it in the second point, is that she will likely try to alienate you from the children. This isn't always the case, but I'm going to say more often than not, it tends to be the case. Divorce does not encourage women to behave well. It encourages them to behave quite badly, in fact. It encourages them to have custody of the kids, and as a function of that control, and again, access to resources. The alienation component of it is one of the most devastating for men that I believe causes them to self-delete, which is why the rates are 8 times higher with men than it is with women, because the whole point to marriage for most men is family formation, having children, passing on your name, naming your sons, passing on your DNA, and that sort of goes into perpetuity, if you know what I'm saying. That benefit is completely eroded and disappears when she alienates you from the kids. What usually ends up happening in most situations is a couple divorces, she has custody of the kids, she now goes out, starts dating, you have the kids every other weekend on Wednesday night for dinner. My lawyer called that the screw over daddy deal. That ensures that she's a primary caregiver, but every other weekend she has some time off and a Wednesday night to maybe start doing some dating or go salsa dancing or something like that with her friends. That gives her a little bit of time. The alienation component comes into play when you start to try to do certain things like, hey, I'd like to take the kids to Disneyland, or I want to go visit my parents, 1,000 miles away for a week for my dad's birthday or for March break or something like that. And she starts to deny these things and she starts to put a little bit of distance. It's not that uncommon for her to create stories about dad being mean, abusive, distant, any number of things. One of the things that I talk to a lot of guys about, and I'll sort of move on to the next point after I make this statement, is a lot of guys grow up in a single mother household and they're led to believe that dad was a loser. He was a deadbeat, he was incompetent, he was a bad man, he was a cheater, whatever it happened to be, whatever the narrative happens to be. And what I encourage you guys to do if you grew up in a single mother's household and didn't see your dad that much is at the very least, give your dad an opportunity to tell his side of the story. Seek him out, reach out to him. Hey pops, want to sit down, grab a bite to eat, drive out and see him, fly out, whatever it happens to be, and at least hear his side of the story so that you know the truth, because there's always two sides to every story. All right, let's start talking about remedies and some solutions to this problem. The first thing is you're going to need to seek counsel in a brotherhood. Like I said earlier, divorce is incredibly hard. It is very, very difficult. It is draining on men. You are going to need to seek counsel in a brotherhood. Find other men. If you have friends that have been divorced, seek their counsel. If you have the opportunity to dive deeper down the rabbit hole into a sports or a league or something, bowling, hockey, I don't care what it is, find some time in your schedule to recharge the batteries, because one of the biggest mistakes that guys make is that they tend to isolate themselves. We're like, we're more of a lone wolf. Women sort of find better ways to deal with these sorts of things through their network and friends and stuff like that, or coworkers, whereas men sort of just bottle it up, or maybe they'll just, dive into video games sort of thing and, forget about themselves and their own self-care. So this is very, very important when it comes to the first remedy. All right, the second thing when it comes to remedies is, I hate to say it, but read case law. Case law isn't that interesting when it comes to divorce if you're not going through the divorce or if you're not contemplating divorce. But the reason why I spent a lot of time and why I encourage guys to read case law is it will enlighten you as to what the process will look like, what will likely happen, what the potential outcome will be, how to prepare for a lot of the fuckery, if I can put it that way, that's bound to come your way through the divorce cycle. So in Canada, I don't know what the equivalent is in the United Kingdom, Australia, or the United States, for example, but in Canada, it's called CANLII, CANLII.org, and you can search for case law on any topic you want. And if you're going through divorce, something about custody orders, and you'll start to see stuff pop up like, Cooper versus Cooper or something like that, if it goes to court or trial. And then you can start reading the court transcripts as far as what happened between the couple. And that'll give you some idea as far as what you're up against. That's why I always tell guys to read case law. Trust me, you're going to have a lot of time on your hands when you're getting divorced because you're no longer with her anymore and you're going to have some spare time to yourself. Spend some time reading some case law so you understand what you're walking into, because it's a slaughterhouse. It's a dark building with sharp objects. Walk into it with your eyes wide open, okay? Third thing is get a good lawyer. I can't emphasize this enough, guys. Get a good lawyer. Ask some questions to them, like how long you've been practicing family law, have you been divorced? And, you want to look for somebody that's been through at least 10 or 20 years. You can even look up their name in case law to see what kind of cases that they've tried, that they've either been acting for the defendant or for the plaintiff, depending on whoever launched the the legal sequence in the divorce. But get a good lawyer. Be very, very fastidious about this. Read reviews online about what people think of this lawyer and pay attention to it. And the fourth and final thing, guys, is I have a course called The Unplugged Alpha's Guide to Divorce. It's a very well thought out course that I've put together for you guys if you're going through the divorce grinder. It's got everything you need to know from A to Z. It's not specific to a region. So somebody say to me, hey, Rich, is this going to cover me in New York, for example? It doesn't. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not providing legal advice. What I'm providing you is with some strategies on how to navigate it and what to expect as you navigate it, and how to deal with the complexities that I dealt with, that I have also seen a lot of other guys dealt with that I've consulted. And by the way, I also spent several hours with my own family lawyer going through all my material to make sure it was as complete as possible. So You'll find that pinned in the top comment. We'll see you guys in the next video. Be very careful out there. Peace out.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.